I don't know how to mix audio for speakers, so headphones are recommended. Thank you. After Doom's unbelievable success, id were on top of the world. According to the book Masters of Doom by David Kushner, the guys at id were rolling in money, at points earning up to $100,000 a day. We don't have much photography of their spendings, but we do have John Carmack next to his sick-ass Ferrari. With that much success, of course, there was hype for a sequel. The elevator pitch for Doom 2 was simple. Since John Carmack was still steadily at work constructing his 3D engine that would power Quake, Doom 2 was not only a stellar business decision, but a welcome refresher and necessary stopgap for Carmack to complete his work. As such, Doom 2 is very similar to Doom 1. The engine was reused. It was just all new levels, one more weapon, 7 new enemies, and a new final boss. In the level design department, John Romero makes his return, along with new hires American McGee and Sean Green. And of course, Sandy Peterson. Exactly 10 months after the first game, Doom 2 was released on October 10th, 1994. It sold immensely well, more than any game it had made before. It became the highest selling software product of 1994 and sold 1.2 million units within a year of its release. Critics praised it to hell and back, citing its refinement and improvement of the Doom formula, and to this day, the game is still played on a daily by a large, dedicated community of passionate fans. Welcome to Doom 2.
When you want to play the hottest, fastest, most advanced fighting game ever, forget everything else and play Doom 2 on your PC. No other game gives you the incredible realism, the 360-degree smooth scrolling, and explosive action like Doom 2. It's easy to start playing, but it won't let you stop. Doom 2, it will consume you. Play solo against a computer, against a buddy by modem, or online in an awesome 4-way deathmatch. Doom 2, playing in a PC software store near you.
The chapter names I'll be using in this video are unofficial ones found on the Doom Wiki, as Doom 2 is also split very neatly into 3 parts, even if it doesn't have an episode select menu. I'll be playing on Ultra Violence difficulty on GZ Doom with 110 FOV and free look, because that is how I'm comfortable. If you say you don't like that, I don't care. Alright? Let's go. Entryway. Entryway is an introductory map. Not too much to say about it, it's pretty small and simple. But despite the size, it has 4 whole secrets within its walls. Of course, the chainsaw when you turn around right at the start, never forget that. Press this button and you get this green armor, also never forget. Go through the hallway, up this elevator, kill the imp, then press this button. This opens the outside and gives you the first shotgun of the game. Run quickly over this light fixture, which opens a rocket launcher. In just the first map, you should have a chainsaw, 100 armor and health, a shotgun, and a rocket launcher. Doom 1's E1M1 is very iconic, especially with its music. But if you ask a modern classic Doom fan which song they remember most, they'll say it's... Not only is this the map you'll see most when testing out various mods, which we'll get to later, it was also the default choice in many a deathmatch. Need proof? Here's John Romero and YouTuber Decino playing some deathmatch on this exact map.
Damn it, I can't believe that.
The tightly packed layout is perfect for hectic action, and you're never left searching for your opponent. Which brings me to a small, yet very important footnote in multiplayer gaming history. Dwango was an online multiplayer Doom service that started in 1994, the first of its kind to exist. And as it turns out, people loved it. Deathmatching became very popular, and soon thousands were connecting to its servers from all over the world. As a result, map compilations were created to play on Dwango, and the most well-known of all was this. Dwango 5's SS Map 1, or D5M1, is possibly the most played Doom map ever. It features a modified layout of entryway, with many added weapons, teleporters, and hallways to facilitate deathmatching. And from personal experience, I can say it is a lot of fun. The music is spectacular. Interestingly, the main Dwango company went out of business in 1998, but its Japanese subdivision, which spun off to become its own entity, is now both owned by Kadokawa Corporation and the sole owner of both the Nico Nico video website and developer Spike Chunsoft. Yes, that Spike Chunsoft. Huh, turns out there was a lot to talk about. Underhalls. Underhalls kinda sucks. The entire map is a series of long, wet, and dark hallways. In fact, it might just be the first sewer level in FPS gaming history. At least in spirit. The map isn't great, but its biggest redeeming quality is that it introduces you to this. The Super Shotgun. This is it. The greatest shotgun in gaming history, period. Shotguns in other games may be cooler, louder, some may even shoot faster and deal more relative damage, but none of them come close to the eloquent yet satisfying feeling of unloading this masterpiece. The animation, the firing rate, especially the sound effects, everything is perfect. Nothing's quite like the feeling of mowing down a huge group of low-tier enemies with the SSG. This thing's effective at medium range as well, which cements its role as Doom 2's primary workhorse. You really have to try it to believe it, and those who have will attest to its excellence. Anyway, the rest of the map isn't really that interesting. It is one of the most difficult maps to have ever been done in Pacifist, which is going through the entire thing without hurting any enemies. I highly recommend watching the Carl Jobs video for more information. The Gantlet. A gantlet or gauntlet is a form of punishment where people are forced to run in between two rows of people swinging at them with sticks, hence running the gauntlet. You learn something new every day. The Chain Gunner makes his first appearance here, and these are some proper A-tier douchebags. They shoot their rapid-fire hit-scan chain gun at you without pause until you're either out of their sight or dead. They're the highest priority enemies in almost every scenario, because to compensate for their low health, they can hit you like a motherfucker, and you have no chance to dodge their attacks. But goddamn, it's made up for plenty by their wonderful death animation, and even better jibs. Boom! Man, I love this game's sprite work. The map itself ain't too interesting, but it's not bad. Remember to strafe run here and get this nice secret. And if you're ultra mega lazy, you can turn on jump in the settings and just jump on this ledge, skipping the entire first half of the map. You call it cheating, I call it cheating. Yeah, it's cheating. The Focus. I've only ever played through this map while having the weapons and armor of the previous maps, so it's usually a breeze. But when I tried playing the map Pistol Start for this video, it was a surprising challenge. The horde of hit scanners was a humbling handful, as their volleys of gunfire can kill me in seconds. So my strategy was to shoot some pot shots and then take advantage of the infighting system, which allows enemies to agitate and kill each other without my input. Then I just go out there and pick up the pieces. Anyway, check this out. This was sick for 94. You'd think you have to press this button to lower the platform, but you actually have to stand on this box for some reason. I'll probably never figure out what this button does in my lifetime. The ending for this map did give me a little bit of trouble, and if you were to take anything from this video, it should be to never give chain gunners a chance. Pause. How's it going, folks? This is Carbine. This is map 5 of 32, so we are a long way to go. But I'd just like to say something I've been meaning to say, and something you probably have noticed already. This game looks like ass. Look, this game was made in 10 months, and we should be glad that they decided to focus on the gameplay. But what we get from that is a game that plays amazing, but looks like butt cheeks. So that's why I'm here to introduce you to a brand new eye cleansing system, known as the Color Break. Fun's over, folks. We're back to the cold, hard world. Map 5, the Waste Tunnels. I generally like this map. It has enough enemy quantity to keep it interesting, and the fights are beginning to become more dynamic. My biggest problem with it, though, is that half of the map is you going through this dark, dirty, and damp tunnel, but instead of a tech sewer like map 2, it's an actual sewer. The gameplay isn't bad, but it leaves me wanting a lot more. This was probably scary back in 1994, but when you've played this map 1,000 times like I have, you start to wish that your action game didn't look like shit.
Due to feces thrown all over the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and it stunk so bad.
Here's this guy. The Hell Knight is like a Baron, but white and half as strong. These guys mostly serve the purpose that Barons held in Doom 1. Slow-moving tanks that can shoot projectiles and be obstacles for your movement. Except this time, you can actually kill them with relative speed. Hell Knights occupy a happy medium between the squishies and the bosses, a great addition to the enemy roster. Map 6. The Crusher. This one is cool because it's called the Crusher, and there's a thing that crushes a spider, which is called a Crusher, and that's why the map is called that. Anyway, the rest of the map has nothing to do with Crushers, but it's pretty well paced with some substantial fights. Check out this cool staircase over here. We do see a new face to the enemy roster, and these guys are essential. The Revenant is a skeleton with 2 cannons bolted on his shoulders. The fireball these boners shoot can either fly straight ahead or become a homing missile that targets you. Get too close, they also unleash their punch attack. Keep a reasonable distance, dodge the fireballs, or make them hit walls, and you should be good. Okay, you can stop. Overall, a pretty good map, and one of the highlights of episode 1 to be sure. What the fuck? What the fuck? Why can't I leave? Why can't I? What? Fuck this map. You have entered deeply into the infested starport, but something is wrong. The monsters have brought their own reality with them, and the starport's technology is being subverted by their presence. Ahead, you see an outpost of hell, a fortified zone. If you can get past it, you can penetrate into the haunted heart of the starbase and find the controlling switch which holds Earth's population hostage. One of the most imitated maps in Doom history, Dead Simple is Dead Simple. It's a square. Then it opens up to a bigger square. Kill everything, and then you win. A lot of build-up for a map that isn't all that interesting if you know how to dodge some projectiles. But speaking of which... the Mancubus. This guy is an asshole in any circumstance. Living walls of flesh that shoot these huge fireballs that don't home in like a Revenant's, but make up for it in size, speed, damage potential, and frequency. Their biggest weakness is that they can barely move. Best way to beat these guys is to shoot their very large center of mass and learn how to strafe away from those flames. Oh yeah, did you know? The larger enemy sprites of Doom are actually based on 3D models, which were then digitized into sprites, much like Donkey Kong Country or Mortal Kombat. Except these models were real-life statues that id still has somewhere in their office. I'd love to collect those, but they're probably like $500,000 at least. After you've taken out the last Mancubus, then you gotta contend with the Arachnotrons.
Madden.
I don't really care for them. They're shrunken down spider masterminds that shoot plasma balls. That's it. Medium damage, medium health, etc. A somewhat boring yet underutilized enemy in this roster. They have an incredibly high pain chance, which is a stun state activated after taking damage, so anything that's rapid fire can take them out very quickly. But they do have a sick death animation. God damn! To effectively fight Arachnotrons, never stop moving and continually fire at their direction, and they have absolutely no way of hurting you. Folks, the maps we've had so far have been relatively standard fare, because most of them were made by American McGee. But this map right here, this is where Sandy Petersen starts to kick in, relishing his role as a virtual sculptor of hell itself. Most of the remaining game is going to be Sandy, folks. Strap in, we got a long way to go. The gimmick to tricks and traps is doors. There are a total of 8, with 2 locked by keycards, so it's up to you to decide which order of the remaining 6 to go in first. In other words, you are entirely dependent on trial and error. Which is great. I'll just tell you what happened. First run, I got trapped in a hallway with the Baron and had no ammo to take him out. Dead. Second run, went into this room with, oh shit! 1,000,000 Barons and a Cyber Demon fighting to the death. Most screenshots of this map are usually of this section, because it was unlike anything else. High-tier enemies infighting like this really was a spectacle to the millions of players who witnessed it for the first time. Ran out of invulnerability. Dead. Third run. Everything was turning out alright. I was clearing 2 or 3 rooms, but then I was cornered by Pinkies while going for a secret. Dead, dead, and dead. But then, fuck it. Gaming mode. No way, right? No. No, there's no way. There is no way. Tips for creating good WODs from the official Doom Wiki. Do not create inescapable traps or areas, such as pits without exit, which force the player to no-clip the way out of them, or reload a saved game. You may be able to get away with this if it's in the very beginning of a level. Thus, when the player dies, not much progress is lost when the player restarts. Well, not to fucking Sandy. This section is strategically placed at the end of the map, after you've gone through all that shit, and it's just cheeky enough, where if you breeze through it, you wouldn't notice a thing. But if you slip up, it hurts so much more. But honestly, that's just the Peterson way. If you don't keep an open mind, you will never win. Why am I combining these two maps into one section? Because these maps possess two of the most heinous game design crimes I can think of. One being map design, and the other being one of the worst gaming creatures ever to be conceived. Let's start with the latter. Remember in Doom 1 where I said Lost Souls were the worst enemy? They charge straight at you so you can't use rockets, take 2 whole shotgun shots to kill, and deal way too much damage. Fortunately in that game, Lost Souls were manually placed into existence, therefore only a limited quantity of them could wreak havoc. So of course, this had to happen. The Pain Elemental. A fitting name for Doom's most hated enemy, and a guaranteed first ballot for the Gaming Bullshit Hall of Fame, this thing is a living, breathing Lost Soul dispenser. Here's how they work. If you aggro a Pain Elemental, it begins shooting multiple Lost Souls at your direction, and will continue to do so until there are 21 Lost Souls in the level. What's tricky is that Pain Elementals are often placed in crowded locations, either forcing your attention away while it spawns more souls, or making you focus on it while taking fire from everything else. They don't go down easy either, and when they do, they spawn even more Lost Souls, although there's a strangely high chance of them just dying by themselves. As you can guess, things can get out of hand. Best way to kill them is to use a chain gun or plasma gun to stun them and prevent them from releasing souls, but that may or may not be viable in different situations. In a room full of projectile enemies, Pain Elementals are first priority. In a room full of hit scanners, good luck. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and my most hated game design concept, if you can even call it that: mandatory secrets. Put simply, these are secrets that you can technically beat a level without, but your experience will be highly compromised. Take for example the Berserk I picked up just now. Just a bit later, I would run completely out of ammo fighting Pain Elementals, and would have been unable to continue had it not been for my punch attack. But that's not all with this map. This chart indicates how many Pain Elementals there are in map 9, corresponding with difficulty. Here's I'm Too Young to Die and Hey Not Too Rough with 2. Here's Hurt Me Plenty with 3. And then... why? There are some other issues on this map, but the Pain Elementals really did make up the worst of them. So, like I do, I went to vent my frustrations in a Doom Discord server that I was in. Doom 2 Map 9 is a scourge. Turning in my gamer card for this because I don't deserve it. 10 pain elementals. 10.
Half of them are harmless, and you get BFG for the rest.
What?! "44 minutes it took me to beat this fucking map, and I could have had a BFG this whole time." Anyway, map 10 was not much better. I did turn my microphone on during the recording though, so you can hear my very real reaction. Here are the highlights. I'll unmute the mic. Fuck it. This is genuinely one of the worst things I've ever played. Oh my god. Genuinely deplorable. Oh, and there's still more! Don't you love Lost Souls? Don't you love them? Don't you fucking love Lost Souls? Why am I here? No! No! I give up. I give the fuck up. I'm not even gonna exaggerate. This is some of the worst shit I've ever played. 300 plus enemies. 300 plus Lost Souls. There aren't 300 Lost Souls, but it sure fucking feels like it. Sandy Peterson, there doesn't have to be a fucking Lost Soul spawner. I forgot the name. I don't care. Piece of shit. Doesn't have to be one of those in every single goddamn room. You don't need that. Okay? You don't. You don't. You don't have to put them in every single fucking nook and cranny. Okay? Please! Just don't do it! Okay, I think you got the point. And the date on that video is not wrong. I've actually been wanting to do a Doom 2 video for over a year now. So I wanted to go back to that map and see if my opinion from over a year ago still rings true, or whether or not that was simply blind rage. And no, I was completely correct. What the fuck? This was a Doom 1 leftover map created by Tom Hall, former creative director of id, but most importantly to us, the guy that basically invented putting secrets in FPS games, since he demanded that they be put in Wolfenstein 3D. So of course, the entire map revolves around finding secrets, and if you don't find them, you will die. I'll end it off like this. 279 monsters, the most in Doom 1 and 2 and Plutonia, and 18 secrets. You need at least 10 to be able to win. Fuck this map. Moving on. Map 11. Circle of Death or O of Destruction. A brief respite for a tired mind. This is the first of a total of 6 Doom 2 maps that John Romero would create, who, if you remember, was responsible for the first and best episode of Doom 1. His maps were combat-centric, sharply designed, and well-paced, with each one being more satisfying to play than the last. And you know what? He pulls it off here too. Circle of Death puts you in a circle only a mother could love, with each surrounding area activating switches and giving keys that lead to the exit. The gimmick isn't forced or even that prevalent, which I see as the best way to do it. You get enough ammo and weapons for the job, the pacing is tight, the layout is intuitive, and it introduces one of the most revered enemies in gaming history. The Archvile. The most revered enemy in all of Doom 2, and I'd argue to be one of the best designed enemies of all time. Here is how a typical Archvile encounter goes. You see the Archvile sees you. You hear this noise, and then fire starts showing up in front of your screen. You either run away out of his sight, or if you can't do that, boom! You either die a painful death, or suffer a huge health consequence as he starts his attack once again. The Archvile has an incredibly strong line of sight attack, which has a brief delay before it hits. The only ways to combat it is to run behind any sort of cover or to activate the Archvile's pain state by shooting at it, which interrupts the attack. Id knew people would try to exploit this pain state, so they made the chance for it to occur extremely low at 3.13%. For context, the Imp's pain chance is 79%. You can mitigate this slightly by using a shotgun, which will activate the check for each pellet, but even at point-blank range, the super shotgun will only activate the pain state 47% of the time. Oh, and another thing. Yeah, Archviles can revive dead enemies straight off the ground, and they can revive every enemy except for Lost Souls, Pain Elementals, Cyber Demons, Spider Demons, and other Archviles. This makes Archviles public enemy number 1, and if you see one, either run away and go for a flank, or brute force kill it as fast as you can, because if you're complacent, you could die without even knowing where it came from. Anyway, this map is alright. This fight on the bridge can go fuck itself for obvious reasons, and, marking as a transition point, you press this big ass skull to exit.
Mortal, you've done well to make it this far. You've shown much distaste towards my words, but this is just the beginning. There is much suffering yet to come.